Last night I fell asleep, but it
Call the meeting to order. If everyone can please silence their cell phones. This is a special meeting, the Wednesday, October 20, 2015. You can roll.
Mayor Campbell.
Here.
Howden.
Pardon?
Haugen.
Here.
Fordham.
Here.
Monahan.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
And Beargard.
Here. Are there any additions to the agenda? Need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Brad and Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? New business, well, actually, old business. We have the Vanmark Lodge purchase offer. Look at,
This was brought to the attention of the council at our last regular council meeting. I don't think, Bill, you weren't present, but I talked to you a little bit about it. Essentially, the two lots that the city originally purchased along Vandermark, as you realize, we got two offers for purchase on them. Offer one was $20,000 per lot, it's a cash deal. Offer two is for $22,500 per lot, but it's on a 2-year contract for deed. After discussion from the council at our last meeting, neither offer was acted on, and actually it was the direction of the council to offer, or have a counter offer to offer number one. That counter offer was denied, but I talked to both parties and the original offers still stand as is. So, with that, like I said, these lots are technically owned by the HADC. We transferred them to them for direct sale to someone. They talked about it at their Friday meeting last week. Their consensus of the HADC was to accept offer one, but I think they're looking for a recommendation or consensus from the council of what offer you want them to go with.
I'll move to recommend to the HADC to accept offer one, $20,000 per lot cash, quick close.
Second.
so we have a motion by Doyle, second by Scott. Discussion. All right, we'll vote. Scott?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Doyle?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Mark?
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda is a discussion of Chamber and Economic Development Director job description. So, yeah, can you get that back? That'd be great. As we said in our last meeting, Brad and Doyle and Scott had sat down with the Chamber and HADC and worked out a job description. We presented it. We're gonna go through that tonight. I'm gonna do project it up on the wall. see, if not, we may have to turn off half the lights. Push it once, I gotta push it twice. Yeah, it comes. So my idea tonight would be to go through this job description, kind of go through it once and highlight in green what the council as a consensus would go with, and then if there's anything that a council member would like to review or change, we're going to pass on that, and we're going to keep going down through it the first pass and see what's in green and go back and touch on what is not. So I'm going to go through and start reading through this. Council members can stop me and say that they disagree. But like I said, we're going to go through this the first time and then come back through a second time and actually have a more in-depth discussion. So we'll start with obviously City of Hartford position description. There's nothing changing in the director and the job title, the department, the fact that it's the division is Chamber of Commerce, AJD supervisor, the city administrator classification is full-time. So we're going to highlight that, and it's going to track all of my changes, because what's going to happen is, as we get through this, we're going to hopefully come to agreement tonight. In fact, I want to come to agreement tonight. I'll save it for Teresa on a thumb drive. She'll print it out, provide it to everybody here tonight. We'll vote on it yet tonight. So hopefully we get this out to and get it advertised. So
Can you potentially make that font a little larger?
yeah, I will do that. What can you do about that?
That's better, thank you.
So definition. The definition as written up was Hartford Area Chamber of Commerce and Hartford Area Development Corporation, HADC, will represent members by promoting commerce and industry to advance economic growth and to enhance the quality of life within the city of Hartford. The city of Hartford will employ a chamber and economic development director that will work in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce and HADC to achieve this goal and provide technical assistance to the city of Hartford, the Chamber of Commerce, and HADC. The Chamber and Economic Development Director will work directly under the direction of the City Administrator and the Mayor. The Chamber and Economic Development Director will be an employee of the City of Hartford and serves as a coordinator, advisor, liaison of the Chamber of Commerce and HADC by assisting the coordination of day-to-day functions, including supervision of support staff, if applicable, and consultants.
I got to change.
Okay, so we'll leave that. We're going to keep going down through the job location. Obviously, it's located within City Hall.
Mayor, I have to change.
What I want to do, Mark, is kind of go through it and see what's green first, if you're all right with that, and then we'll come back and make changes.
Okay.
That way we can see where we're at, how close we are.
I know we were going to change it as we went.
I'm going to go, this is going to be a first pass,
Okay.
and then we'll come back and do
Okay.
more in-depth second pass. So, position will be located within City Hall. Obviously, that's no problem there. I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. Essential job functions of the job. Attend HADC Chamber City meetings on a regular basis. Attend other meetings as assigned by the city administrator. I have a problem with that. Attend business, commercial, economic development related workshops, seminars, conferences, and meetings to seek press and new sources of information. If anybody has a problem with any census, please just say I have a problem, and I'll just move on. Be an advocate for the city of Hartford and to educate decision makers about the key issues impacting small community and economic development and commerce efforts. So, like I said, I have a problem with this one sentence in there, so I'm not going to agree in that. I think, because that's a bullet point, that's a whole bullet point, Brad, you put in there. If we broke that up into different bullet points, that might be different. Assist the Chamber of Commerce and HADC and the City of Hartford, including subcommittees, to actively pursue grants and loans to help meet the objectives, objects, I think you meant to be objectives, would that be correct? So you don't mind, I'm going to edit that.
Feel free.
Objectives of each group This assistance should include identifying potential grants and loans, submitting grant and loan requests, and providing follow-up as needed on the submitted request. Does anybody have a problem with that with that bullet point?
With that change, okay?
Did that change okay? So I'm gonna highlight that real quick.
So does that take the city administrator out of helping with grants, or?
No,
Is that saying that he can, he or she can help?
The
with
position can support the draft of
Okay.
pursuing grants and loans.
respond to requests for information, RFIs, as directed by the HADC. That needs to be reworded. If the proposed site is 3 miles outside the city of Hartford, city limits approval from the city administrator or mayor is needed prior to submitting a response to a RFI. Anybody have issues with that?
Yeah, I want to see that changed.
Provide a monthly summary of past, current, and future events, projects, economic activities again, probably, Brad? I don't know if you don't mind, I'm gonna change that. Just get the wording right. To the city administrator, mayor, and city council, information provided from RFI request should include a minimum project name, type of facility, infrastructure requirements, specific economic impact, potential site location that is being proposed if the site being proposed is owned by the city of Hartford. Does anybody have a problem with that statement?
I'm fine with the first sentence, but I don't think the rest of it is really necessary.
You think this is just, you think this whole here is not necessary?
Right.
Okay, so we'll come back and visit that. Are you okay with that, the fact that they just provide a monthly summary? Okay. Confidentiality shall be managed, I'm going to next bullet point, confidentiality shall be managed by maintaining a database of past, current, future projects that can be assessed by the city administrator and mayor. This database shall also include inventory of potential businesses, relocations, and potential developments, along with a listing of available residential, office, retail, and industrial space. The process collecting, maintaining, and retaining this information shall be determined by the city administrator and mayor. Anybody have a problem with that?
I don't know that second sentence is necessary in there if this person is already going to put together a plan or goals that identify the.
That's in the next bullet.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of redundant that we have that in two places.
Let's come back to that.
We'll come back to that one, okay. Create and maintain, the next bullet is create and maintain an annual economic development plan for the city of Hartford. This shall include an inventory of community resources, including land, information on public infrastructure, social, cultural, educational advantages, and related demographic statistics. This plan shall identify short and long-term economic development goals and the recommended resources and process improvements needed to obtain these goals. I don't have an issue with that in general, I just think it's very long worded. I think my thing of that is to try to just shorten it up, just go back to having an economic plan that gets submitted, so I'm gonna come back to do that. We can talk about that.
Addressed in the first sentence there, essentially.
Right. It's addressed right in that first sentence, create and maintain economic plans. The next bullet point, complete administrative duties as assigned by the city administrator or mayor. I got a problem with that, because I think the city council should be involved in that. So I'm gonna leave that one not green. Required knowledge and ability, knowledge of theory, principles, and practices of economic community development, that makes sense. Knowledge of business development, including, does anybody have a problem with that? I'm gonna highlight that green. Knowledge of business development, including business planning, finance, marketing, and general business administration. What's that?
Business administration.
Administration? Just for clarification. But anybody have a problem with that, Lola? Okay. Knowledge of state, federal, regional grants and loan programs pertaining to community and economic development. Any issues? A sound understanding of local economic development, workforce development, business retention and expansion, investment attraction, marketing principles, and best practices. Any issues with that, council?
best practices of what?
It'd be marketing. Be marketing principles and best practices. Okay?
Can we take out best practices that we don't think it's
Ability to establish and maintain effective working relationships with local business leaders, association officials, federal, state, local, and regional development officials, and chamber offices, city staff, mayor, city council board, various committees, and the general public. I think that's a good bullet point. Any issues with that? Minimum qualifications. The ideal candidate should possess a bachelor's degree or more in public business administration, marketing, economics, or related fields, previous relevant experience in economic development preferred. Any equivalent combination or education and/or experience may be accepted. Basic computer knowledge required, including Microsoft Office Suite, basic graphic design, and web maintenance knowledge is preferred. Any issues with that? Those sentences there for the minimum qualifications.
I might change the wording on the last sentence.
Okay, you can come back to that, or do you want to just change it real quick?
Basic graphic design and web maintenance knowledge. Brad, you remember when we were talking about this as far as dealing with the back end and then making quick changes and stuff like that, Doyle? Do you feel that that web maintenance knowledge covers that quick change? I mean, is there another way to put that so that, Bob and Crystal are not, or Karen for that matter, are being,
Just to talk to that, Scott, I think the web maintenance would be those small edits. I think the concern would be, anything above maintenance would be building something from scratch or
Right.
overhauling something, and that would be more detailed, so I'm comfortable with what's there.
okay.
Compensation for the position will be set by the Hartford City Council, which may include additional incentives for attaining economic development goals. Qualified applicants with disabilities are encouraged to apply for the job. No item in this job description is intended to screen out qualified applicants. We encourage all qualified applicants to discuss reasonable accommodation requirements. Any issues with any of this?
Do we plan to be more specific on compensation in this position as advertised?
I think we have to look at that as based upon their background and education and experience, right?
And Bill, is the question deriving from, around additional incentives?
No, not necessarily, just,
Because we tried to be somewhat vague here, because we didn't want to try to define what the compensation looks like. We just wanted to put something down with the understanding that we could iron out from an incentive, or from a compensation perspective, something more concrete. That would, that helps.
So Bill, you okay with what this is? Okay. So that goes through it, and I'll go back up to the top. Mark, you brought up issues with the definition, or some discussion there?
Yeah, the Chamber Economic Development Director will work directly under the direction of the city administrator and the mayor. And I'm curious why the council was taken out of that.
With our, and I'll try to provide what history I can, and Scott and Doyle and others, please don't keep me honest, but kind of the overall, discussion that we had was we had a lot of cooks in the kitchen and trying to, clean things up. There were instances that there were opinions that were voiced where it was kind of confusing who Gary ultimately reported to and what he should be doing when. And so that was kind of the effort here was to try to clean that up a little bit. Now, how that aligns with other positions within, the city is,
Just for the record, this position will work at the leisure of the council. So I think the council is a pretty important cook to have in that kitchen.
I would agree.
And
And
that
that first bullet point, we talked about adding that in there too, so.
The position that we're looking at is gonna be hired and fired at the council's discretion. And in that statement, you've completely removed the city council from working directly under the direction of. So in essence, when you read that, that position doesn't work directly under the direction of the city council. That position will only work directly under the city administrator and the mayor.
Mark, I think I can clear that up. I don't care for that introductory paragraph generally, but whether you know, folks like it or not, I don't think that you can state a job description, state who that the person is answerable to a city administrator and mayor without having a city council there, because as a matter of law, I mean, the mayor, for example, at a council meeting, the mayor presides over the council meeting. But the city council can always overrule the mayor on a majority vote. So whatever decision the city administrator or mayor might make as a matter of law can always be overruled by the city council. I think to include anything in this job description that excludes the city council is, frankly, it's a violation of state statute. I don't think it stands.
Okay. Council also provided a copy of mine, what I worked on. Mine, if you take a look at mine, and if you look at it, the council also provided some job descriptions from like Wall and some other Marshall County and some other places.
Yours eliminated it too.
No, I actually, that was my draft I sent you, but I actually had it changed here. If I get it here.
And if I'm not mistaken, the one from Wall has the city council plugged in, and the one from Marshall doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
I think from Marshall County, that's not a city municipal
Yeah,
entity.
that was found.
So, the one that I did, the one that I typed up here is a little bit more, I think, directly to the point. I don't know if the council would agree with this or not. Mine states the Hartford Chamber of Economic Development Director's goal is to recruit new business and to advocate for existing businesses for the city of Hartford. The position will be a full-time employee of the city of Hartford and shall adhere to the employee handbook and shall work under the direction from the city administrator, mayor, and city council. The position will provide direction to the HACC board and HADC board. That one, I'm gonna flip back to the other one, is quite a bit shorter than this one.
And I don't care how it reads as long as it doesn't take the council out of it.
I like that better. I think it's more concise, more flexible.
I think just kind of highlighting some differences here, and, you know, what that's leaving out is the Chamber of Economic Development Director will be an employee of Hartford and serve as the coordinator, advisory liaison of the Chamber of Commerce and HABC to assist in coordination of day-to-day functions, including supervision of support staff and consultants. So that's probably the largest difference between what the group that Doyle, Scott, and I worked with and what you have as well.
I think that almost is incorporated already in our bullet points below in the job, essential job functions, I think, Brad.
In what way? I guess I'm missing.
Well, serving as a coordinator advisor, we're already talking in the second bullet point about assisting the chamber, HADC.
Down here in the essential duties.
But that's specifically in regards to actively pursuing grants and loans. Assistants should also be identified, yeah, so I mean, that doesn't say anything about acting as a liaison between the group. So I'm not sure, Ryan, what you're looking at that represents that particular sentence that was omitted.
Well, Brad, you gotta remember within these meetings, I was against that sentence from the beginning. And we just, moved on over my objection.
So, Mark, your deal is that as long as this,
Yeah, I don't care which ones you use, I don't care if you take them both and mush them together. I'm not gonna vote for anything that doesn't have the council plugged in, period. So,
I agree that that's the reason I put it in there.
oh, I mean, I'm happy with either one of them.
Well, there's a difference between them, that's for sure.
Well, it just depends on if you think it's redundant or not. If you think Brad and Doyle and Scott's is redundant, then I like yours. If you don't think it's redundant, then I'm fine with it, so. It's all based on opinion, whatever you want,
It is.
whatever you want to read into it, so. I think you can make the case that it is redundant. But like Brad said, I think you could make the case that it's not, so. The only thing I care about is having the council plugged in, so.
Well, I tend to agree with Ryan on it. So at this point,
Well, hold on, you tend to agree with Ryan on what?
that that a lot of that stuff is already talked about down below.
We don't talk anywhere in here about being a liaison between the groups, or is this in the day-to-day operations?
I don't believe it should be assisting with day-to-day operations.
Well, that's a whole other discussion, then, isn't it?
Maybe that last sentence should be, may go with the mayor's description, if everybody's good with that, but then that last sentence, put down as a bullet point and tweak it how you guys, agree upon.
I will respect where the majority of the council falls out, but I don't think the right thing to do is to completely omit that sentence when it's not anywhere else within the job description, just by striking out the whole definition as a whole. I think, we walked away from that group, and you're right, Doyle, you're right, in our discussions, you wanted to have that omitted. But I think you represented one of about 9 people sitting within that room, or maybe one of 7, and that's why it stayed within that particular definition.
Sure.
So, that's why it was still included within the overall proposal. So I'm just trying to give a holistic point of view is all, so I'm not necessarily stating my opinion, just trying to, educate everyone kind of where it came from and why it remains there.
And see, I think Brad brings up a bigger point, and I think it's captured in the day-to-day clause that's in there, is because, the trouble in the past, there was static about picking up mail, there was static about paying bills, there was static about making reservations for a retreat, and that all falls into, I would make the case that falls into day-to-day operations. Emails that are directed to the chamber, or emails that are directed to the HABC, I think they're forwarded on, so I think the consensus before we move on to the council is gonna have to be, I think this one that states day-to-day operation, I think spells out those getting the mail, paying the bills, replying to forwarded emails, making reservations, lining up.
Line up the food, line up.
Yeah,
line up all that.
I think it definitely speaks to that.
And I don't like that. I think it's a director's position. I think that's more of a secretarial type position.
Just for the sake of conversation, I would agree, I don't care for that sentence.
Is it the day-to-day that stands out as a concern? I guess if you break it down, we really have 3 parts in there, right? Yeah, the Chamber of Economic.
No, you can sit. You can sit.
Okay, it's on set.
We're discussing.
You really have 3 points here. You have the fact that it's gonna be an employee. The second part is serves as the coordinator, advisor, and liaison. And the third part is managing the day-to-day operations. So I guess that's kind of how I'm looking at it, is as 3 separate parts.
But day-to-day operations, the issue is that it becomes more of a, this person, where there's a lot of expectation to go out and do the economic development, help with those businesses and everything, but the expectation of the person sitting there arranging conference rooms, arranging food, ordering pizza, whatever it may be, is, I think, more of a secretarial job.
I have a question, Bill. Who's doing that right now? Who's doing day-to-day right now?
Teresa.
Okay, I guess I'm filling
Are
in
you
what
doing day-to-day?
I'm getting the messages off the machine, I'm answering emails, look to see what's coming in, answering what I
Okay,
can.
so-
There's some that I forward on, had a question about dues, I forwarded on to Gail, she's the treasurer of the chamber, and yeah, I sort through all that.
But that's stuff coming in here to the directors.
Email,
Email.
yeah, I'm checking that, yeah.
And I'm also stepping up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
chamber is good duty.
So, I mean, it's a matter of, the, whatever, I mean, we haven't gone far enough, Mark, to, really get into it. I know the groups have picked up the, some of the slack with the, like the Halloween thing. I heard that Noble did the, Sherry did the drawing,
Renee, Sherry are doing all of that.
graphics, and Lene worked with that or something too, and
Yep, I'm doing all of that.
are you getting the mail right now?
I haven't picked it up for 2 weeks. Gail's, been picking up some for the chamber. HAC doesn't have anything.
So
Doesn't have
day-to-day
anything.
activities, I mean, that's a very vague statement. Day-to-day functions. Brad, that's the question.
Okay, well, it seems like the amount of work that goes into day-to-day functions at this point is fairly normal too. I mean, whether it stays or whether it goes, I'm fine either which way. I'm just trying to highlight kind of what the discussion was that the group had. You know, I think, hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn here, but maybe it's, you know, feel free to weigh in here too, Scott, but maybe it's more just assisting with the coordination of these particulars. You know, maybe we don't need day-to-day answer. I think what needs to happen is, you know, this particular individual that would be in this role needs to be able to voice what's his role and responsibility versus that of those that are within the chamber and the HABC.
And I think the key to, in that firsthand experience as far as, you know, the day, let's use the word day-to-day, or Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, maybe to be a little more specific. It is extremely difficult, I think, in my opinion, to do a lot of these things when said volunteers are themselves working other jobs. And I think that's really where that derives from. And to, I know myself personally, I cannot do a lot of that stuff. A lot of the stuff I do, well, on the marketing side is done after hours. So I think that, you know, using some of this terminology is prudent because, like Lene said, I know Lene, like I said, has stepped up tremendously, and we'll be losing her at the end of the year. Little thing, nuances like that, like making a phone call, that you might think is easy to do, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, actually is not. And so it's a little directive to help us out with that particular thing, and I'm talking specifically chamber now, I think does have some merit.
Well, you want to say something now? You
I
got
can
three?
basically reiterate what Scott had said. We have full-time jobs 8 to 5, whether it be a chamber event, whether it be a mixer, and there's orders and drinks that need to be lined up. That could take 2 or 3 hours of somebody's time throughout the day to schedule it, price it out, whatever it may be. And that ball may get dropped if it's left into somebody's shoes, like Renee's, myself, Justin's. If we've got our hands full before that mixer that day, or that grand opening, or that ribbon cutting, that, you know, the ball could get dropped for those, you know, for instance, a day-to-day operation of, you know, food getting ordered, or getting ordered, or drinks, whatever it may be.
I think you have to assign committees or find people to do it. It's the director's position is just.
Retired people or high school?
No, we're not gonna get into big, I mean, hold on, Lisa. I'm gonna let everybody know right now, this council's gonna try to make a decision tonight. So if we can't go to a decision, I'm just gonna put stuff in there, we'll vote on it and move on. Okay, one more outbreak, and you're all out. One more outbreak, you're all out. I'm not gonna put up with it, folks. I'm not gonna put up with it.
People you can count on to do your jobs, to do the jobs of the city, are their paid people. We got a room full of volunteers that for some reason we keep stepping up and volunteering for this community. But if I have a crisis at my job, and I can't make it to a ribbon cutting, or I can't call in that food order, what's gonna be my priority? And the way you're presenting it is, that should be this director's position. Everyone else, you're on the committee, if you're gonna commit to it, you need to do it. All you're doing is making sure everybody that's sitting here says, well, I can't commit to that.
No,
We're out.
hold
Yeah,
on.
no more volunteers.
Tony, we're not gonna line up a bunch of people talking.
Mr. Mayor, I would
Sit
like
down,
to.
sit down.
Mr. Mayor, would you
No,
listen to me?
no, I'm not gonna listen. No,
I would like-
Lisa was talking, I'm gonna allow her to talk, and we're gonna move on.
I would like a chance to talk. I have background in positions like this and would like to address a few of these things from my previous backgrounds.
No, thank you. You got it.
You're going to deny me the
Please have a
opportunity to
seat.
speak, is that correct?
Please have a seat. Yes,
And your reason for that is?
we need to keep moving on with this meeting, it's always gonna go till midnight.
So you're not gonna allow someone who has.
You're taking up our
background
time right now, do I need to
in-
gavel you down? And ask you to leave? I'm asking you to have a seat.
You're not gonna take from a citizen who wants to be part of your meeting. That's ridiculous, Mr. Mayor, and I want to get
You
record.
can go
for
out
it.
the door right now. You can leave right now.
I'll sit here and be quiet the rest of the night.
Thank you.
Obviously, there's nothing you want from me. I'm done.
We need to get back to the business at hand. This is obviously a sticking point with me, with this coordination of day-to-day functions. I'm gonna go down the table, I'm gonna ask each councilperson, yes or no. Do you have an issue with it, yes or no? Scott?
Do I, as written? No, I do not have an issue.
As written, do you have issue with it? Yeah. So you know you can have an issue, Bill?
Yes, I have an issue with it. I would just say that I think the notion of having a liaison means that you've got two groups that don't communicate well. And you need somebody to facilitate communication between the groups. I would like to think that at some point, the city council, the
Okay,
development court and the chamber will be able to communicate without having to have a go-between. So I don't care for the liaison.
okay. Doyle?
Just the wording, yes.
Wording, yes. Brad?
I don't have a problem with what's there, but I have a proposed recommendation that might suffice.
Okay, we'll go keep going out and come back to you. Brian?
Yeah, I do. I think the city, the voters of this town voted to have an economic development director and not a secretary, so I'd like to see it. I'd like to see the person doing more economic development and not spending their time doing that.
Hey, Mark?
I don't have a problem with the day-to-day, but I think you need an asterisk by it, and then maybe a back page that defines what day-to-day is. So, because I think day-to-day puts too much opinion in it,
Exactly.
and I think if you just put a star next to it and spell out on page 3 what the day-to-day is, it takes all the opinion out of it. Because I think the position does need to do day-to-day work, but what that work is, we can have that discussion at a later date.
Well, one thing, Mark, if we were to utilize that other introductory description paragraph, I mean, the duties of this position will always be at the discretion of the council. This council or a future council can always add and subtract duties for that position, as long as we keep it flexible enough there.
So Brad, what was your idea?
Let's go with potentially utilize the mayor's definition that he has proposed. Take this last sentence, transform that into a separate bullet point as previously recommended underneath essential job functions of the job. It may be worded something similar to the chamber and economic developer will be an employee of the city of Hartford and serve and or assist as a coordinator, advisor, and liaison of the Chamber of Commerce and HABC. And then at that point. Because then I think you remove the day-to-day, but you're still talking to the fact that they're still assisting with the, as, you know, coordinating efforts, and being an advisor. And I'm going to disagree with Bill on the fact that it's a liaison. He's a director of these two entities, and as that director, I think that's our go-to person to go to. It's also those entities' go-to person, so I think that would fit the definition of liaison in my form.
So then,
Serve and
right,
or assist.
serve right here.
Serves and or assists.
Okay, so I'm gonna take this and make that a bullet point, shall we say?
And the whole sentence would be its own bullet.
Okay, and then that's gonna be modified, right?
Well, everything from the chamber and economic development director would be pulled down into its own bullet. So you're gonna be missing the first part of that sentence. The chamber and economic director. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because
Yep,
it's,
okay, I'm with you, sorry, I missed it.
so here's what you're saying, it's, that's a bad one. I get it. So that's the other job description, the Hartford Chamber and Economic Development. The goal is to recruit new businesses and be an advocate for existing businesses for the city of Hartford. The position will be a full-time employee of the city of Hartford and shall adhere to the employee handbook and shall work under the direction from the city administrator, mayor, and city council. The position will provide direction to the HACC and HADC boards. And I took that other bullet point and put it down here.
So it'd be like serve and or assist as a coordinator advisor or something similar.
Serves as,
Serve and or assist.
and or
Assist.
assist.
And with whatever else you have there.
as-
And as for your description of above, I think the,
Let's, end it right after liaison to the Chamber of Commerce and HABC. Let's take out the provide assistance and coordination.
yeah, that. you
Like I
remove
think-
all that.
Like I think Mark
Not
said,
that much,
it's
not
a
that
little
much.
Remove, keep HABC.
He was saying let's do that.
Yep.
And I think, like Mark said, we can define day-to-day, or other councils can define day-to-day, what that is.
Well, you're gonna have to now, because now it says serves and or assists as the coordinator. Well, coordinator, I mean,
Yeah.
that's an incredibly vague word. So that's gonna have to be defined.
I think you gotta get that out of there. We don't even know what that is.
No, I think you leave it in, but I mean, see, this is where all the problem comes in because of the opinion, you know, as to what is coordinating and what is day-to-day.
You can't leave it in there if you don't know what it is.
Well, you can't leave it undefined is what you can't do, because one person's opinion of day-to-day and coordinating is entirely different from another's, and then you get people talking in driveways over here, and people talking in backyards over here, and then it turns into, you know, you got the pile of poo and the fan, and there you go.
So, but I mean, we're gonna have to, so we, in order to start having a job description, then we gotta have a list of definitions in the back of the employee handbook as well. That ain't gonna be kosher either.
Well, simply changing the word "the" in that very specific line to "a coordinator." I mean, this way, the word "the" is saying specifically that individual is the coordinator. the definition of a coordinator simply says,
Yeah, that's good, Scott.
Yeah, I like that. And going back to your job description up on top, I think that last sentence, this position will provide direction to the HACC board and HADC boards, is kind of redundant with the bullet that we have down below, because it's, does it make sense?
Which,
With the both of you,
This one right here, the position will provide, I think that that is redundant of kind of what we're doing down here, because we're defining that as a coordinated advisor and liaison. You know, and that's pretty much saying the same thing as it's going to provide direction, so just.
Yeah, I think he's right.
I guess I'm kind of missing how we modify coordinator by changing it from the
It's not
capital
saying
C
that he's-
coordinator to
It's not
a
saying
small
it's-
C coordinator.
it's not saying
What's a
that-
coordinator?
yeah, it's still a coordinator.
well, no, here, I can give you an example, okay? The coordinator, okay, I'll just use myself as an example, as far as the marketing committee for the Chamber of Commerce, okay? I'm the chair of the marketing committee. A coordinator is another word for, essentially, I would say a committee member, in essence. For example, Bill Zortman and I work together very closely when it comes to, we're going to be working this week on scripting, okay, for the commercial stuff. We need input. We have in the past had input from the economic development director to know what the highlights are for a given campaign. Now, he wasn't the person who actually told us what to do. He simply just, you know, gave us information and was a coordinator